Hello and welcome. This video is about sitskis. Not the skill of sitskiing, not even the skill of tethering a sitski, but the machinery and terminology of sitskis themselves. If you've been volunteering around sitskis for 2 or 3 years, you probably already know 60 or 70% of this, but maybe you don't know the other 30 or 40%. I know I spent years working around sitskis before I figured all this stuff out. So this is a sitski, and this is also a sitski. They vary as much as cars do. This one is designed to have 2 skis on the bottom. That's often called a bi-ski. And this one is designed to just have 1. That's often called a mono-ski. Bi-skis are usually used by people with less upper body strength, less control and mobility, or beginners. Monoskis like this, you need good upper body strength, good core strength to support yourself to ride them. They're usually used by people who ski independently. If you watch the Paralympics, you'll see monoskis exclusively. So there are 3 basic parts to a sitski. At the bottom we have the skis, in the middle the mechanism, and at the top the seat, which is often informally called the bucket. If you buy a sitski from a manufacturer, what you're probably buying is just the mechanism. The skis and the seat are added later. Skis on a sitski are the same as any other ski. They have edges that need sharpening. They have bases that need waxing. If we look at this sitski, the skis on it are noticeably short. They're quite wide, and they have a high angle side cut, a small radius turn. So these skis are designed to be easy to turn, and in fact they're designed specifically for sitskis. Over here on the monoski we have a standard ski, or almost a standard ski. We tend to use racing skis. That's because we have the weight of this skier, the mechanism, all on 1 ski instead of 2, so we need a stiffer ski than normal. We also tend to dial up the din settings to their maximum, or even find ways to bypass the safety binding mechanisms altogether. That's partly due to the weight, but also there's almost no scenario where it would be a good idea for the ski to come off the mechanism. There are no ankles to protect here. So let's talk about the mechanism from the bottom up. The first thing is a system of levers that are used when the ski tilts. So when I lean the ski over, the mechanism means that the skis don't go like this with me, instead they go like that, which keeps 2 edges on the snow and you're skiing just as any ordinary skier would. Of course, the monoski doesn't need that. So the second thing is a centering mechanism. If I lean this ski to one side, it will come back and stand up by itself. This helps keep the ski stable when you're skiing, and also means we can leave them standing around by themselves when they're empty. Monoskis don't have this, and indeed they do tend to fall over when nobody's in them. The next thing to talk about is a shock absorber. There's a shock absorber in the mechanism which evens out the bumps as we go down the hill. This takes a similar role to the knees of a stand-up skier, absorbing the bumps, giving a smoother ride, and keeping 2 skis in contact with the snow. When you take out a sitski, you need to test the shock absorber. You can do this by leaning on the back. It should go down and then come back up again. If it doesn't go down and back up, then it's probably frozen and needs to be fixed. If it goes down and goes bang at the bottom, then it probably needs more oil or air in the absorber. If it goes down and up very, very slowly, then it's probably half frozen, and that's not good either. You should check your shock absorber every lesson you start. One question we're often asked is how do sitskis get up the mountain? And they get up the mountain much like anybody else on a chairlift. To make that happen, the mechanism needs to open so that the chairlift chair can go under the seat and above the skis. They have a hinge mechanism at the front, and this one has a toggle. When you pull it, a spring assists in lifting the skier up, leaving a gap for the chairlift to move into. The sitski will then lock in an up position. You can then maneuver the sitski in front of the chairlift. You need to put the toggle back into the ski position to allow the mechanism to close back down when the chair hits it. This model doesn't have a spring mechanism, but it does have a pin that stops the mechanism from opening. Here's the pin, and we need to remove it so that the mechanism can open before we go up the chairlift. So this pin needs to be replaced in the hole to hold the mechanism together before you go downhill. This model doesn't have a spring mechanism and it won't stay up. So we have to lift it up by hand and time that with the chairlift. So as the chairlift comes around, we have two volunteers, one each side of the sitski. We reach down to these handles and go 3, 2, 1, lift. The chair goes under the sitski and we put the sitski down onto the chair. Most monoskis don't have a chairlift mechanism like that. There's a gap in the mechanism here for the chairlift to go into, and the skier tends to push themselves up and hop onto the chairlift as it comes round. Finally, we have these bolts which can be tightened and loosened to allow the chair to be repositioned. This is used to center the skier's weight over the center of the skis. It's very important that they can move forward and backward to initiate a turn and to complete it. As a stand-up skier, I can use my ankles to shift my weight back and forward. I have a large range of motion. A sit skier only has from the waist up, so they only can move a smaller amount. This means it's much more important that that neutral position is correctly balanced. There's a whole procedure for establishing the correct balance called dowel testing. That's beyond the scope of this video. Just be aware of it and make sure that your skier is correctly centered. You may also be able to adjust the angle here called the dump. Is it high or low? Some skiers prefer a leaning forward position, an aggressive position where their knees high. Some prefer more of a relaxed. It's important that this lip doesn't cut into the back of their legs. It can cut down on the circulation. Bad circulation in cold weather is always a bad combination, but in particular sit skiers often have a lack of feeling in their legs and they can't tell whether their legs are getting cold. The seat is generally padded for comfort and to avoid pressure points. One thing we'll often find is additional padding that is fitted in, that is custom fitted to the individual skier, especially if they have a condition which makes their spine curved or their butt asymmetric. So as you've probably figured out by now, between moving the seat forward and back to balance it and the padding, the custom padding, you can't just pick up a sit ski and move them to another sit ski. A sit ski has to be tuned and fitted for an individual skier. Once we've got our skier in the sit ski, we use these straps to tighten them up. A waist strap and typically a thigh strap. We tighten these up pretty tight, much as you would do your ski boots. And for the same reason, with your ski boots, you want them tight so that when you move your foot, the boot and the ski moves with it and you have control. For a sit skier, their hips and their thighs take the role of your foot, and the seat takes the role of the boot. So they control their skis by moving their body. We need it tight enough that the chair and the skis move with it. We may have a skier who has limited upper body strength. They can lean forward a little bit, but they can't sit themselves back up again. In that case, we use these elasticated chest straps. You want to lift your arm and put it underneath, okay, so that they can lean forward and then the strap helps them sit back. And for people who really have very limited upper body strength, maybe only mobility from the neck up, we can use a set of straps like this, forming a multi-point harness over the upper body. They come over the shoulders, they connect to each side, and they connect in the middle. So on this model, the straps are clipped together with clips you'll be familiar with from backpacks. They clip together like that, and then you tighten them by pulling on the straps, and you can release them by squeezing these pieces together. With this model, the straps are a lot more like those we'd find on a snowboard. They slide in like this, and then we can ratchet to tighten it up and release by pulling on the center piece of plastic. We also have straps on the feet. These don't need to be tight, they're just to hold the feet in place so that they don't fall out. Final set of straps is this triangular set that is connected with a carabiner, and these are used in the extremely unlikely event that the chairlift breaks down and the sitski needs to be evacuated. This provides a balanced lift point where the sitski can be lifted off the chairlift. When we're skiing downhill, these are usually tucked away in between the skier's thighs. Let's talk about some of the accessories we often use with Sitskis. Here at Edelweiss, these are often called pontoons. Some other programs call them fixed outriggers. They work a lot like training wheels on a bicycle. Once they're attached, they limit the amount you can lean, and therefore you can only take wide turns, but you're less likely to fall over. They fit through pre-drilled holes here, and we do up the butterfly here. We can adjust them in and out using the pins here and the bolts here to make them low and away, which leads to a very low amount of turn possible, or high and tight. We can do a greater turn. Here at Edelweiss, our green run, it has a steeper section, so we tend to prefer higher and tighter so that we can make a good, strong, positive turn. So the alternative to fixed outriggers is arm outriggers like this. They're a lot like short crutches with mini skis at the end. They fit on the arm going through this plastic cuff and then tightening up with Velcro. The hands go on these handles, and it is important when you put them through to make sure you don't end up with some wrist skin showing. So pull the sleeve down. As a safety thing, the plastic cuff has a gap in it. This should be towards the outside, which is safer in a crash scenario. Arm outriggers have two positions. This is the ski or down position that you would have it in for going down the hill skiing. If we pull on this elastic and lift the arm rigger up and now release the elastic, it's now in the up position. It can be used a lot like a ski pole. It can be used to move yourself around on the flats in lift lines. Of course, once we've got onto the chair, we're going to need to go back to the ski position, which we do by pulling on the elastic and pushing it forward and down. We can adjust the length of the arm outrigger using these pins, and when we do, we have to adjust the length of the elastic as well. Actually, adjusting the elastic is something we do quite a lot. They need to be at the right tension so that when you pull them, it releases. And they tend to stretch out over time. The other thing we often adjust is this bolt here. That limits the amount of movement when this outrigger is in this position. These back edges can cause friction when we are going down the hill. Not enough to stop the skier, but maybe enough to initiate a turn to one side. By adjusting that bolt, we can adjust the amount of friction caused by this heel and hence adjust the feel of the outriggers to match the skier's preference. If we have our sit skier using the fixed pontoons, we have to worry about what are they going to do with their hands. And the answer is a handlebar. For this model, this handlebar slides in here into some pre-drilled channels, and this pin is used to attach it. For this model of Sitski, there is a handlebar available, but it's more of a T shape. It fits in here and comes up above the skier's knees. For mono skis, the people are always using arm outriggers. The fixed outriggers are just not used. These are tethers. They're straps about 5 meters long with a loop sewn into each end. By skiing behind the sitski, holding on to these, we can apply some tension on the tethers and we can break or lean the sitski. Tethering is a skill all to itself, which is beyond the scope of this video. So let's just talk about attaching them. When we attach them to the sitski, we want them to be high as possible and at the back so that we have strong leverage. So they're connected here by passing them through a loop on the sitski and back through the loop on the tether. At the other end, we make a loop by folding it and passing it through the sewn loop, and that makes a loop that can be tightened up. We tighten it up on the arm, and then we take a few wraps around the palm, basically to fine-tune the length of the tether between us and the sitski to my preference as a tetherer. Some programs use a short additional piece of strapping or tether that's attached to the back of the sitski. The idea is that it's a loop that can be connected with a carabiner, and when you get on the chairlift, you connect it to hold the sitski onto the chairlift so that it can't fall off. Of course, you have to take it off again before you get to the top of the chairlift. I've generally seen that at bigger mountains where the chairlift rides are high and long. We don't use it here where we have a shorter chairlift ride. And finally, of course, the helmet. Helmets are mandatory for instructors, tetherers and sit skiers in every program I've been involved with. It's a good safety measure, and really in a crash situation, a sit ski would be a nasty piece of equipment to hit you in the head. If you've watched this video through to the end, then you're probably starting out on your journey with sit skis. Maybe as a volunteer, maybe as a sit skier, maybe as an instructor. Whichever it is, we welcome you to the fraternity. We wish you success and some blue sky ski days. And if you found this video helpful, please leave a comment. And if you haven't found this video helpful, maybe you should leave a comment on that too.